ESPN NBA analyst and also a voice of the NBA Finals on ESPN for many years. Jeff Van Gundy back here in the program. How are you, Coach?
Good. How's everything?
I'm doing fine. So how do you take in the news that that Chris Paul will not be available on Saturday night for Houston?
Well, obviously it's a blow. I mean, he's a great player, but to think that they can't win on the road without him would be doing a disservice to the greatness of James Harden and also to a defense that has absolutely just put an elite offensive team in shackles. And so I give them a good chance to close out the series in Game 6.
Is that right? So why, I guess? I know you just gave it a little bit, but
I think that offensively, I would have never thought I would have seen Golden State look as flustered, as stagnant, as stationary as they do. This switching 1 through 5 that both teams employ, but Houston basically on every cross of two players they switch has really flattened out Golden State much more than I ever would have suspected. And, to hold that team in the 90s, 2 straight games, an incredible feat by Houston. And likewise, for an elite offensive team like Houston to be held down offensively 3 straight games and win 2 of them, I think just shows you that they're such a balanced team. And really, when you think of Houston, they're not 1 game away from advancing to the finals. They're 1 game away from winning the championship if they're healthy.
Okay, let's dive into that a little bit more, because obviously you're seeing their potential opponent up close and personal every single night, including tonight. What makes you say that, Jeff?
Well, I think Boston is the better of the 2 teams, and I think they would have the better of the chances to give both Golden State or Houston, whoever advances, the best run, because I think defensively they're the most equipped. This game has turned into such an isolation series in the Western Conference because of all the switching. It's become a one-on-one contest, and I think Boston has such great versatility defensively. Now, they've got their own limitations offensively, but defensively they would make it competitive. But I'd be hard-pressed to see, if Paul's healthy, how they could beat Houston or Golden State in the series.
Jeff Van Gundy here on the Rich Eisen Show. What has happened to the Cavs night in, night out, where they're so up and down, so inconsistent, sometimes look like they're asleep, Jeff? There's no other way to put it. Just lack of energy, lack of cohesion, and then obviously when they get on their home court like they'll be tonight, it's a different story. What are you seeing from this team?
Well, I think you see that for a lot of players in our league. The ability to transfer their game from home to road is inconsistent at best, except for the star players, right? And so to me, I know a lot's been made out of the idea that Cleveland has somehow underachieved in these playoffs. I look at it totally different. I look at it as like they've achieved a lot, because you take Kyrie Irving off their team, and you look at their lineup, and you ask yourself, after James, where does Cleveland have the advantage matchup-wise? And the answer to me is nowhere. And I thought and it's happened, Houston's gone to it, and now Boston's gone to it. They've cut down the number of guys they've played to 7. And so they're keeping their best players on the floor for all 240 minutes. They're not gifting you any minutes with lesser players or less experienced players who are not capable of playing well in the moment. And you've seen Cleveland do the same. They first cut out Clarkson's minutes, and then they cut out Hood's minutes. Then they, put Clarkson back in for 4, and then last game he played a lot more due to his blowout. But you're seeing a lot of that. So I just don't think Cleveland's as even nearly close to as good as they have been. And so I don't look at it like they're underachieving. I just look at it as everybody is underestimating Boston and Boston's talent because of the injuries they've had and because they look at the number, the experience factor and overweighing the experience factor compared to how talented they are.
Jeff Van Gundy, head coach of the USA men's basketball team as well, here on the Rich Eisen Show. So let me ask you this, Jeff, with your coaching acumen and your decades of experience there, as well as your own two eyes, seeing Brad Stevens work up close, what are you seeing that people are singing his praises about?
Oh, well, he's an outstanding coach. I mean, the guy is like, you saw it at college and Butler. You see it with Boston. They do a great job defensively. They run good actions. They're unselfish. But the thing that I love about him, but let me say this, Rich, too.
Yep.
So Brad Stevens is a great, great basketball coach, right? But somehow in this whole talk, like Ty Lue has gotten a short shift as far as his coaching. I think what he's had to manage, and it may be different. It may be like totally different, but he doesn't have an easy group by any stretch. And they've won a championship with him. They've got to another finals, and they're in the Eastern Conference Finals again. And I don't think people even approach giving him credit that he deserves.
Well, so, you know that the reason for that is a lot of people think all he's got to do is roll the basketballs out. There's 23 who's calling the plays and choosing the players that he plays with. Anyway.
Yeah, you know what? That's first of all, if you're going to eliminate talking about the greatness of coaches because they've had great players, well, you're not going to talk then about Phil Jackson. You're not going to talk about Pat Riley. You're not going to talk about Red Auerbach, Red Holtzman. I mean, listen, if you're just going to eliminate and not give credit to coaches who've won because they've had great players, well, you can't be a great coach without having your name attached to a great player. So that's a little bit nonsensical to me. But to get back to Brad Stevens, the thing I admire the most about Brad, besides his greatness as a coach, is his humility as he's getting all this praise, is his dignity, as his integrity. I really admire him as a person.
Well, going back and forth between Boston, last one for you here, Jeff. Going back and forth between Boston and Cleveland and being around the practices of being around everybody, the chatter that maybe you have picked up, is it safe to say that not only is obviously the season on the line for the Cavs, but LeBron's second tenure in Cleveland is on the line tonight as well?
Yeah, I'm not so sure. I don't think he has a big circle that he confides in. So I think a lot of it, if you hear it, is just rumor and innuendo that's not based on anything upon fact. So I would look at it like, where can he go and make a max salary where he has a better chance to win? And I don't have a place that I would say that's possible. And maybe one opens up. But I think one thing I do know, he says, and every athlete says this right now, like when asked about their future, I haven't given it one bit of thought. And again, if there was a lie detector test attached, that thing would be beeping because it's human nature. You're going to definitely think about what's in your future, and you have the ability as a professional to do both, to be locked in on the future or locked in on the present, and also have given some thought to the future. So I'm sure he knows what he wants to do, but I don't think outside of a very few close friends, anyone really has a good idea of what it is.
Especially when you have wife and kids who might be saying, what are you thinking? Like, where do you think we'll be in September to go to schools? Right, exactly.
Right. Yeah. And I think he has, I think he has at least one child that's approaching high school age. And so, that's when to me, it becomes, trickier and trickier because you're supposed to be a really good player and you want to make it such that, he has his best chance of success as well.
Well, and I don't, while we're just on the subject, to just go deeper into it, let's say remove the max contract out of it, Jeff. I mean, he's got money. He's got he's got a whole second act once he's done with football already set up and running with him and Maverick Carter. Where do you think, if he just removes max contract from, is the best spot for him to win?
Well, to win?
Yeah. That's pretty
Boston?
much all he needs left.
Boston?
Well, that would take him. That would take him. And
well, I don't think anybody wouldn't take him if you take the contract out of it. I mean, if LeBron James, and it's just, are you better with his game and talent and all that comes with James? Yeah, I mean, he could go to all 30 teams. So I think his best chances would be to win, would be to go to Golden State, would be to go to Boston, would be to go to Houston. Philly would be another one. So yeah, I mean, the teams that are, that have younger bases that you could add his greatness to, why not? Let's have James go to Golden State and give no one a chance for the foreseeable future.
You could get a timeshare there in the Oakland, San Francisco area, Jeff. Knowing you'll be there every single June. Last one for you then? Do you think you will be in Boston on Memorial Day? Do you think that's going to happen? Waking up there after a game.
Yeah,
you think you'll be there on Sunday?
Yeah, I think they're going to win tonight here. I thought they would win in 5. Mm-hmm. Cleveland, to me, has done a good job of getting it here to the 6th game. The way they've played at home, I wouldn't be surprised at all if Cleveland got it to a 7th game. And if they do get it to a 7th game, even though they've been, hammered pretty good in all 3 games on the road, to think that LeBron James and that team couldn't muster up one great road game would be silly. So I think Boston, their approach, just like Houston's approach, better be, let's end it now.
Love the chat, Jeff. As always, hopefully we'll chat during the finals. We'll definitely be giving you a call.
Okay, take care.
Thanks again. You got it. Jeff Van Gundy.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.